So we got a couple things to talk about in music review. Big things. I know I mentioned in the last episode, I think I mentioned that I was going to talk about the Worship Initiative Volume 30. Now, I've talked about the Worship Initiative before, uh, mostly in the context of Shane and Shane because I'm a fan of Shane and Shane. But the Worship Initiative is basically something that Shane and Shane started, and now it's kind of become this whole entity involving different singers now. Um, in fact, Shane and Shane are barely present on this album, except for a couple of tracks. Um, they might be playing guitar and playing some of the music on the tracks, but I'm not very sure. But I listened to the Worship Initiative, Volume 30, and for those of you who may not be familiar with what they do, basically what the Worship Initiative does is that they take most of their albums consist of mostly covers of uh, worship songs. Some of them are popular worship songs, but the main goal, this is what they've stated, but the main goal is to collect um, theologically sound songs, in their opinion, in their honest opinion, and they cover them, and they usually, and I don't mean this in a bad way. They usually, the songs that they take and they cover, they tend to simplify them in a way, like musically, and I wonder if that's, I feel like it's intentional um to make the song more, I guess, coverable and adjustable to any church worship team uh, that has any, it can be covered by a worship pastor with just an acoustic guitar or full band. Um, I feel like that's intentional so that it's more, um, accessible to most worship teams, and I like it. It's not simplified in a bad way at all. A lot of their songs are very beautiful, honestly, and I love their arrangements. But but yeah, the Worship Initiative Volume 30 is simple as most of their albums are, but not bad. It's a good collection of songs, even with, now this is where it's gonna get a little controversial, even with the inclusion of Bethel and Hillsong songs. Now, I made a video about Bethel, Hillsong, and Elevation Worship, those bands, and so if you want to know my thoughts on that, you can watch that. But basically, to sum it up, I have my problems with each of those churches and each of those worship teams. However, I haven't I haven't found myself to be as black and white as a lot of people have. I'm not comfortable listening to their music or play or singing them in church most of the time. If I were still a worship team, if I were still a worship leader, I would be probably choosing not to play any of their songs. But I also stated, bleh, I also stated that many of their songs are great. Maybe not many, but a lot of them are great. And I like some of them because a lot of them are just, you know, theologically sound. Um, so, but here's the thing with the Worship Initiative covering them, it makes it a little bit more easier to listen to without having a guilty conscience because I'm not supporting their these ministries directly. I'm more supporting the Worship Initiative, Shane and Shane, and such. And I'm able to enjoy the songs basically conscious free. So But we'll get to those songs. Tasteful use of Nothing But the Blood at the end of Son of Suffering. That is actually a really good song from Bethel. Uh, it's good. It's like almost hymn like. I've not listened to the actual Bethel version, but Son of Suffering is good. It's got some good stuff. Um, and at the end, they Worship Initiative had their own like creative input and put in. They tagged the Nothing But the Blood verse, which I always like. Um, this album introduced me to songs that I didn't know and now like, including Stronghold. That's a really good one. Um, and then there's Gratitude, which is originally written or performed by Brandon Lake. Uh, Now Brandon Lake is from Elevation Worship, and so, but Brandon Lake as an individual has been kind of cool in my books. I haven't really listened to a lot of his worship solo stuff, but like he's all right. And the thing is that we can never know like what individuals who are involved in either Elevation Bethel or Hillsong, we can't know if they actually go along with all the controversy of these churches. So who's to know? I know a lot of I see a lot of people in like the Heresy Hunters group or like the What the Verdict Facebook group, and they're like, they're affiliated with uh Hillsong, Bethel, or whatever. Insert any one of those. So it's best to avoid them. I don't treat it that way. I don't live my life in that way. I'd just because someone is affiliated, especially a lot of Christians tend to feel bad when they refuse to collaborate with other people who profess to be Christians. So I don't really blame him for that, but I don't know. I may be wrong about Brandon Lake, but I don't know that much about him. All I know is that Gratitude, it's a fine song. It's I'm just not sure if I would sing it in church. 'Cause there's this weird line in the bridge where it's like, "Cause you've got a lion inside you." I'm like, I don't know if I would want to sing that in church. It's just kind of weird. It's more of like, this is more of a personal song, and that's fine. I I just yeah. Come Lord Jesus Come is actually an original from them, and it's great. It's basically a modern hymn. A Thousand Hallelujahs is also a good song, and it's by Brooke uh, Ligertwood. I've never known how to pronounce her name because I've never heard people say it, and she's from Hillsong. So there's another example. It's a good song, but she's from Hillsong. But it's a good song. Not saying anything more. Um, and they also have their own rendition of "I Need Thee Every Hour," and that was very appropriate and much appreciated. It's a really good rendition. Um, and the only tracks that Shane and Shane are vocally at least present are the songs "Peace" and "Refuge." Um, and you know, I love Shane and Shane, and I feel like that they're sorry. um, oh, sorry, I have my Facebook notifications on. Um, I always liked it when they came on, and Refuge is a good track as well. Um, there were moments in the middle of the album where I was tempted to skip ahead, but most of the album is very captivating with its melodies and arrangements. Good cover worship album, especially with its creative decisions and original inclusions. So check it out. You know, worship leaders, check it out. There's some good stuff that you could probably use in a worship set list, and it's also just good for personal worship if any of you guys practice that. Um, So yeah, that's basically my review of the Worship Initiative Volume 30. I probably my score would probably be somewhere between like a 6 or 7 out of 10. It's not bad, but yeah. So and up next we have Chagall Guevara, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So for those of you who don't know, Chagall Guevara was a band from somewhere around the 90s that was led by Steve Taylor. He was their main vocalist and main songwriter, of course. And they had one album, and that was it. And now apparently they're back together making new music, and they have a new album coming out in July 1st, called Halcyon Days. And they've released 2 singles so far. And I'm sorry, I gotta say, as much of a big fan as I am of Steve Taylor, I had not taken the time to listen to Chagall Guevara's debut album, but I actually plan on checking it out because almost anything musically that Steve Taylor touches is gold. I have a lot of respect for his craft, and these 2 singles are no exception. Uh, they're great. I think they're really good, and I'm really excited for the new album. The 2 singles are Resurrection Number 9 and God Any Change. God Any Change, they said in a post on social media, it tells the story of an encounter with Greta Garbo, a silver screen star that abruptly retired in 1941 and spent the rest of her life as a recluse in New York City. The song was recorded in 1989, originally had the title My Tribute, and was a staple of early Chagall Guevara shows. And yeah, the song is very catchy and fun, but well crafted in true Steve Taylor form. It's basically, in my humble opinion, it's like REM meets the Rolling Stones in a weird way. It's a lot of fun, and it's got great melodies and great production as well. And Resurrection Number 9 is just as fun, with a great horn section to this rock and roll jam, which is not Steve Taylor's not a stranger to great horn sections in his songs, especially in Steve Taylor and the Perfect Foil in their album Goliath. I'm not sure what the lyrics mean, but there seems to be themes of idolatry and such. But either way, it's a great jam, and I'm really excited about this album. And in my spare time, I plan on listening to their previous album from like 30 years ago. um, yeah, so that's basically all that we got for music review. Hey, so I don't know if you guys know this, but what you just watched was basically just a clip of a full podcast episode of my podcast, The I'm Clifford Today Show. So you should just go check out that whole episode. Also, while you're at it, you might as well like the video and subscribe to my channel. You know, that'd be really nice. I mean, you're nice people, right? Okay.